it's Jets, and welcome back to my mess.
Oh, yikes. I don't know if I'm going to use that, but...
You should use that. Yes, you should.
So in today's video, I have a lot of new mom friends and just friends that are pregnant and due to have their baby soon. And I, by no means, am an expert, but over the last few weeks, I have figured out some tips and tricks to get my daughter to sleep through the night. She is currently 4 months old. She has been sleeping 12 hours since about 3 months old. And she started sleeping 5-hour stretches at 4 weeks old, and they just gradually kept getting longer and longer. So I feel like I have done gentle sleep training with her, basically just set up healthy sleep habits and a consistent routine, and that has made all the difference. So today I'm going to share all of those tips and tricks with you, and hopefully this can help you new moms get some more sleep and help your baby get the sleep that they need. I also just want to say that there are 2 resources that I use that have been helpful. I haven't taken all of the information and applied it to our life. I kind of just found what worked for us and what I was comfortable with using. The first resource is called Baby Wise, and that is a book written by a pediatrician. It's about $11 on Amazon, so super affordable. I read it in my last few weeks of pregnancy. And then the second one is Taking Care of Babies. She is a neonatal nurse and also married to a pediatrician, and together they have created a resource guide as well as some online classes to just kind of talk you through sleep training and setting up those healthy sleep habits as well. She has a ton of free resources on her page, some blogs, and those classes have been super helpful. So step number 1, I'd say this is very important when you have a newborn. It's called the eat-wake-sleep cycle. So essentially what you're doing is you are feeding that baby as soon as they wake up from their nap, because then that way they're not associating nursing or the bottle to their sleep. So a lot of babies tend to fall asleep while they're nursing or while they're being bottle fed, and if you do it right after they wake up, that's when they tend to have the most energy, so they can not only get a full feed, but they're also not associating food with sleep. So yeah, as soon as that baby wakes up, feed them, try to get a full feeding, so burp in between and then switch to the other side, give them a diaper change, whatever you have to do to get a full feed is going to be beneficial. And then as your baby gets older and grows and their tummy gets bigger and they can hold more food, I kind of started going more towards like a scheduled feed, because I found that, you know, every 2 hours my baby wasn't eating a full feed. She was just kind of snacking, so 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, and if I kind of stretched them out, she would take 15-minute nursing sessions or 20-minute nursing sessions, and so she was getting that full feed in. Step 2, and in my opinion the most important part of all of this to teach your baby how to sleep independently, is to lay them down drowsy but awake. And I know that that's so hard when you have a newborn who only wants to sleep on you, with you, hates being on their back, hates their bassinet. But if your baby falls asleep in your arms and then you move them when they're in their deep sleep to their bassinet and they wake up between their sleep cycles, which they will 100% do because they're not super good at connecting them when they're that little, they are going to freak out because their environment changed, right? And it would be the same thing with you. If you fall asleep on your bed and then someone were to move you and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're in a totally different environment, that would freak you out. It's the same thing with babies. If they fall asleep in your arms and they wake up in their bed, they're going to freak out. Like, why aren't I with mom anymore? The main thing is to lay them down drowsy but awake. That teaches them to sleep independently. It's teaching them to learn to fall asleep on their own. They're not using sleep props and they're not using you to help them fall asleep. The next step is creating a consistent routine. So for us, our nap routine, we don't really have one. It's very quick, it's very simple. I will take her upstairs, I will put her in her sleep sack, which is the Zippity Zip, and I highly recommend that one. Is the one that's shaped like the starfish. Now that she's rolling, it kind of creates that muffled effect, so they feel like they're still being swaddled and in the womb, but it's not restrictive. So once the baby starts rolling and getting more active in their sleep, they have the flexibility and the freedom of movement to do that in that sleep sack. So highly recommend. It's been a really good transitional piece for us from the swaddle. I put her in that, I turn the sound machine on, I black out the room, I kiss her goodnight, and I walk out the door, and that's it. That's our nap routine. And when I first started doing this, she would cry, she would fuss it out, and that kind of leads me to my next point, but I would set my timer for 5 minutes and turn the monitor off. And then once my timer went off, I would recheck it. And if she was escalated or she was still fussing, I would go upstairs and kind of do the Ferber method. So I would do check-ins and just reassure her, make sure all her needs were met, but then continue to keep putting her in bed and calm her down and try to do it the least amount of intervention possible, but just, help her calm down and relax so she could go to sleep. And then for nighttime, we go up about 30 minutes before her bedtime. I will nurse her, we'll rock in the chair together. I have soft lullabies playing in the background on a speaker. I have the sound machine turned down low. That white noise is very important. It signals to her that, okay, bedtime is coming. It's time for me to get sleepy and ready for bed. And then after I'm done nursing, I burp her, I pray with her, I rock her until she's drowsy, and then I put her in her bed and kiss her goodnight, tell her I love her, and that's it. For a while, for the first few weeks, I didn't know to create a consistent bedtime routine, and she was treating bedtime like her last nap of the day. So she was waking up after about 45 minutes to an hour, and I didn't know at the time, but I would take her out and try to, stretch her wake window and do it all over again. And now she knows, okay, this routine specifically means it's bedtime. It's time to go to sleep for the night. And that has made a huge difference. Okay, step 4 is to be consistent, and babies thrive off of routine. Your schedule can be flexible, but you should still be consistent in what it is that you're doing. Your approach every time should be the same. Don't make them cry it out one day and then the next day you go in and cuddle them, because that's going to be confusing and also not fair to them. One of the things that really changed for our routine, I know it's hard when you're sleep deprived and you're exhausted, but just give it 2 weeks and see if it improves your sleep schedule. But what I did was I started making our daytime wake up time between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Again, there's flexibility there, but that's like our desired wake time basically. And then bedtime I always make between 7 and 8 o'clock. Sometimes the schedule based on her naps of the day, we don't always make it to 7 o'clock. Sometimes I have to push that last wake window to be an hour longer than normal to get us as close to 7 as possible. Sometimes she goes down at 6:30, sometimes at 6:45, sometimes at 7:30. It just kind of depends on how our day goes, which is why I'm saying flexibility is important. And then step 5, I found this to be the most important step. And we actually had to move her to her own room because I wasn't able to do this step with her right next to me in the bedside sleeper, the bassinet that was attached to the side of our bed. But the main thing is to give them time to figure it out. I was finding myself intervening way too quickly, and as soon as she would start fussing, I would grab her, nurse her, try to put her back to sleep immediately because I didn't want to listen to her crying or fussing for 5-10 minutes in the middle of the night. You're tired, you just want them to stop and get back to bed. We moved her to her crib for a few different reasons, that being the main one, but the other main reason was that she was starting to get old enough that she was much more aware of her surroundings, so she wasn't sleeping through all the noise that I was making when I was coming to bed later than her. The bed would creak and toss and turn, and she would feel that or hear that and kind of wake, and so we just decided let's try her bedroom for a few nights. And this is when she really started sleeping longer stretches. I mean, I'd say the first few days of her being in her own room, she went from a consistent 5.5 hours a night to about 8.5 hours. So that was a very big jump. And then over time, me implementing all of these other things, we've now gotten to 12.5 hours. I know it's hard to hear your baby cry and to hear them fuss. And of course, if it escalates to like screaming and they're hysterical, please go get them and help. But if it's just fussing and you know that their needs are met, giving them that time to figure out how to put themselves back to sleep is so important. They basically are crying because they need help falling back to sleep. And if you rush in there and rock them or nurse them back to sleep, they're going to expect it every single time. and then they're relying on you to put them to sleep. So if you give them a few minutes to just kind of fuss it out, you can try turning on the sound machine, you can try giving them a pacifier if that soothes them. The main thing is to just give them time. Set a timer on your phone, and 5 minutes, if that's the max that you can handle, that's fine. Just set that timer and try not to go in before then. Your baby will surprise you. When I started doing this, 9 times out of 10, Max put herself back to sleep. And each time it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker, and the fussing lasts, you know, less and less each time. And then the last thing, I've already kind of talked about this before in previous videos, but if you don't have the Huckleberry app, I highly, highly recommend it. Once your baby hits 2 months old, it will start giving you the sweet spot predictions, and it also tells you what are age appropriate wake windows. So it's very helpful for making sure that your baby's not overtired for their naps or undertired. It just helps set up some type of routine and schedule when it comes to getting the appropriate amount of hours in for sleep. But yeah, those are all the tips and tricks that I have for you. Hopefully this is helpful to new moms, and you guys will be able to implement this and hopefully get some good sleep. Just be consistent with it. Give yourself at least 2 weeks before you give up. But like I said, they worked very quickly for us, and I'm confident that they'll work for you as well. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything that I may have missed that may be super helpful to other moms watching this. And yeah, that's all I got for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.